Hey everyone! Imagine firing up Days Gone Remastered on PS5, Oregon's wastelands glistening in 4K, Deacon's bike roaring through the fog, freakers swarming under new lightning. It looks incredible, but deep down every fan's thinking the same thing. Where's Days Gone 2? In this video we are diving deep into the truth behind the remaster, what Sony and Bend Studio are really planning, and why this release might secretly decide the future of the entire franchise. Could this be a quiet setup for a sequel, or the final goodbye? Stick around and you'll know what's happening behind the scenes, and what we, the fans, can actually do to bring Days Gone 2 back from the dead. If you love PlayStation stories that deserve a second chance, hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's ride. The road's not over yet. When Days Gone Remastered arrived on PS5 earlier this year, bundled with the Broken Road DLC, it reignited the entire fanbase. Exploring Oregon's brutal wilderness in native 4K with enhanced lighting, new modes, and a simple $10 upgrade, hard to resist. But let's be honest, that visual polish only satisfies fans for a moment. What players really want isn't another upgrade, it's new story content. A remaster will never quench the thirst of the fans. We want a new story. We want new story content, not just an enhanced version of the 2019 game. That quote summed up the community mood perfectly. Fans were grateful, but it also reminded them how much they still crave Days Gone 2. Some even went as far as calling the remaster a cash grab, while paradoxically urging others to buy it anyway, not to reward Sony, but to prove that the demand for a sequel is still alive and kicking. Despite mixed reviews at launch, Days Gone slowly but steadily became a success story. By February 2022, it had sold over 7.3 million units, a figure that places it alongside several major PlayStation hits. It earned cult classic status, the kind of love that grows stronger with time. The PC version still maintains an active player base, with thousands roaming the farewell wilderness every day. That's not nostalgia, that's dedication. Sony and Bend Studio have kept things deliberately vague. Bend's community manager, Kevin McAllister, directly dismissed sequel rumors, explaining that the studio have moved on to a new project. His message was essentially, "We hear you, but this isn't it." Whether that statement came from him or higher up the chain is another matter entirely. The original creative leads have also stepped back. John Garvin, who envisioned Days Gone 2 as a trilogy and even drafted a full sequel pitch, has admitted that the sequel isn't on the horizon and may only happen if Sony licenses the IP to another developer. Meanwhile, Jeff Ross, the original game director, confirmed that Sony never greenlit a sequel. Never say never, but at the time it definitely wasn't happening. Behind the scenes, things got even messier. Multiple reports revealed that Bend was secretly working on a live service project, codenamed Mirror Punt, for several years, which Sony ultimately cancelled after a lack of progress. The fallout was brutal. Around 30% of Bend's staff were laid off, including longtime veterans. Sources indicated that the project was scrapped after 3 years because it simply wasn't shaping up. This paints a clear picture. Sony's focus shifted away from single-player storytelling and toward riskier live service experiments, a strategy that ironically seems to be backfiring. Analysts and fans alike argued that this obsession with live service has deprived games like Days Gone of the sequel they deserve. Now, based on leaks, trends, and community chatter, here's what things might actually be headed. The remaster was a test. The $10 remaster wasn't just fan service, it was data collection. Sony is measuring engagement, sales, and social traction. The response determines if the IP still has potential. Fans know it too. Many have said, if this remaster flops, we'll never get Days Gone 2. The real obstacle is structural. The creative team that built the first game has scattered. With major staff departures and layoffs, rebuilding that same chemistry would be hard. Sony may be hesitant to invest in a sequel without its original storytellers, but if the fan numbers are strong enough, business logic could still turn the tide. The IP could be licensed out. If Sony doesn't want to fund or manage development directly, they could license Days Gone to another studio, similar to what other publishers have done to revive dormant IPs. John Garvin himself has hinted this might be the only realistic route forward. Days Days Gone 2 as a PS6 launch title. One of the more exciting theories is that Sony could hold Days Gone 2 as a next-gen exclusive, potentially a PlayStation 6 launch or early cycle game. The timing would make sense. PS5 is midway through its lifespan, and Sony might want a gritty, open-world survival showcase for their next console. This would also give Bend years to rebuild and scale up properly. The sequel would evolve, not repeat. If it happens, doesn't expect a carbon copy of the first game. Fans and insiders imagine something bigger and more ambitious. Co-op survival modes, more intelligent horde AI, evolved freaker variants, and maybe even multiple playable characters like Sarah. It could lean more cinematic or cooperative, depending on Sony's vision for the future of open-world titles. Days Gone 2 isn't dead, not yet, but Sony needs proof. The Broken Road DLC and PS5 remaster are likely serving as the deciding factor. If this release performs well, it could reopen the conversation. If not, Sony will quietly close the book and move on. At the end of the day, we, the community, are the variable that can change the outcome. Every purchase, every post, every hashtag adds to the signal that Sony can't ignore forever. There's a long road between fan passion and corporate approval. But if Days Gone taught us anything, it's that even in a dying world, persistence pays off. So the question now isn't if fans care, it's whether Sony finally will. At the end of the day, Days Gone was never just another open-world game. It was a story about loyalty, survival, and stubborn hope. And maybe that's why fans refuse to let it die. Personally, I don't think Days Gone 2 is gone forever. I think Sony is watching, waiting for the right moment, the right numbers, maybe even the right generation to bring it back. Imagine a sequel years from now. Deacon and Sarah rebuilding a world on the edge, entire towns rising from the ashes, hordes evolving into new forms of terror, and maybe, just maybe, a co-op mode where you and your friend fight through the freaker apocalypse together. It's not impossible, it's just sleeping. But what do you think? Would you rather see a true sequel that continues Deacon's story, or a reboot that reimagines the Days Gone's universe for a new generation? Drop your thoughts below. I'm diving into every comment because this discussion isn't over. Thanks for watching. For more updates on Days Gone 2 or other gaming content, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Until then, stay safe.